Well, hello and welcome. I thought I'd speak to you a little bit today about a record Indian order for Indian-made weapon systems. It is a huge boost for atmanirbharta in our country as we know it. The total value of the deal, 2.23 lakh crore rupees. This was actually announced by the Defense Ministry. There was an important meeting of the Defense Acquisition Council headed by the Defense Minister Rajnath Singh. And what we are essentially looking at is 97 additional Tejas fighters for the Indian Air Force. These will be the Mark 1A variant, which is more advanced than the variant presently in service with the Indian Air Force. There'll be 156 light combat helicopters, also known as the Prachand, recently inducted into the Indian Air Force and the Indian Army, manufactured by Hindustan Aeronautics. This will essentially ensure that in the future, India will no longer need to import attack helicopters. At this stage, we are importing two primary attack helicopters, one from America, the Apache helicopter. Then there's the other one which we've imported in the past, which is still in service, the Mi-35 from Russia. We do have the Rudra gunship as well. That's a variant of the advanced light helicopter, the ALH Dhruv, which is in service with the forces. But what we're talking about is the light combat helicopter, which is the Prachand, which is quite unique because it's the only helicopter of its class in the world with the ability of operating at altitudes such as what we have in Ladakh while carrying a reasonable weapons load. It can take out targets in that area. It's also equipped with air-to-air missiles, which can be used to take out either aircraft or drones in the air. Not very many attack helicopters regularly deploy air-to-air missiles. This one does. Now, in addition to this, there'll be several other weapon systems which will actually be inducted progressively over a period of time. Very significantly, India's Russian-designed Sukhoi 30 fighters will be upgraded. They have been acquired now for several years. I believe it's been about 2001 or so when they first started coming into the Indian Air Force. They need to be updated and upgraded. Now, this is a very massive project. 84 aircraft to start with will be updated. Why is this important? It is important because the avionics will be replaced. The radar will be replaced. The weapon systems will now also include a large component of Indian weapon systems, which has not been the case so far in large quantities in the past or in the present at this stage. Lots of other factors as well. The electronic warfare system will be Indian as well. So these are all factors which will go to making the Sukhoi 30 aircraft, which India operates in larger numbers than any other fighter aircraft presently in our fleet. It'll go to making them much more advanced than what they have been presently. The Sukhoi 30 still has a lot of life in every aircraft left. Therefore, it is imperative for India to extract as much potential from that platform, and that means upgrading it with Indian avionics. And I think when we speak about Indian radar systems and Indian avionics and Indian weapons, the key point is that there is a level of maturity which is now available in the domestic defense industry, which just did not exist even a couple of years back. The fact that we are now developing systems which are truly world-class, and these are subsystems. They may not necessarily be very catchy as a new fighter aircraft or a stealth platform or what have you, but the fact of the matter is it is these subsystems which actually define the capabilities of any fighter aircraft or tank, artillery system or warship. And we now have prowess in developing world-class, for example, mission computers for our fighter aircraft, AESA radars, which are electronically scanned arrays, which offer much greater accuracy, ranges, and reliability for air-to-air intercept radars, which are the primary sensor of fighter aircraft than what we've had in the past. Just a few countries in the world have the ability to actually manufacture these. So those are a couple of things which India is doing very well in. I've just named a couple because there are other areas where we are doing very well indeed. The T-90 tanks, again, it is, I won't use the word legacy because they aren't as old as the T-72 tanks, but these are Russian-designed tanks manufactured under license now in India. They're called the Bhishma. They need to be updated as well, and there will now be an automatic target tracking system and a digital ballistic computer which will be inducted. So these are items which will be made in India. Remember, the T-90 tank is also deployed not just in the desert, but also in the mountains of Ladakh. So it's a missile-carrying firing tank, and with the weapon, or with the addition of this new technology, its ability to track targets and hit targets much more accurately will get progressively improved. Ammunition is at the heart of any modern army, any army for that matter. We are looking to acquire two types of anti-tank munitions: area denial munition and other munition capable of neutralizing armored personnel carriers, enemy personnel, and tanks. This will replace existing stocks of similar ammunition, perhaps be more advanced as well. The Indian Army has had great success with its Bofors artillery guns in the past. I remember covering Kargil back in 1999. It was the Bofors gun which, in so many ways, defined a large part of that conflict. The guns were absolutely stupendous. And even though we had the ability to license manufacture the Bofors guns in India because of the huge controversy which broke out, it didn't happen then. It is now happening now. There is a new gun called the Dhanush, which is based on the old Bofors gun, which is still wonderful in its application and its use and its capability. But India now has a new generation of technology available in-house. We've got the ability, and we have developed. Bharat Forge has been developing this along with the DRDO setup. The Tatas also involved in this project. The ATAGS gun, which actually outranges any comparable artillery guns of its system. So as far as this Defense Acquisition Committee meeting is concerned, one of the orders is for towed artillery gun systems, and these would be an Indian manufactured system. Finally, just in terms of what I'm saying, there are other aspects of this we don't need to necessarily get into. There is a medium-range anti-ship missile, which I believe will also be Indian designed and manufactured, which will be acquired. These are anti-ship missiles for our warships, which will work in conjunction with the BrahMos missile, which is already being manufactured in India. The BrahMos, larger, heavier, more capable, greater ranges. This will fly to somewhat lower, shorter ranges, but would have essentially the same task in its anti-ship role. I should stress over here that this is a wish list at one level. It will be realized, but it's going to take some time for this to become a reality. So the way it works is, this is now an acceptance of necessity which has been okayed by the Defense Acquisition Council of the Defense Ministry. After this, there will be contract negotiations which will take place with Indian manufacturers. Don't assume for a moment that these contract negotiations will end in double quick time. They could carry on for months, if not years. After that, once there is a final price which has been achieved at, then you get into a situation where the entire contract goes to the Cabinet Committee of Security. That's headed by the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister signs off on this deal. It then goes for manufacture. And given the quantities that we are looking at, for example, 97 additional Tejas aircraft of the Tejas Mark 1A category or Tejas Mark 1A type, we'll need to set up much more manufacturing in terms of infrastructure than what presently exists. So that's been a problem for us. We've got the technology. Now manufacturing this at scale is something that's critical. But I will end this with the use of the word scale once more. If we acquire Indian weapon systems at scale, they become more economically viable. There is an industrial ecosystem which is set up. This generates tens of thousands of jobs per large order, right? And these orders or components for these aircraft or missiles or guns are spread out in small industries which could involve the private sector as well, will involve the private sector as well, which are located across the country. So it sets up an industrial base and an industrial ecosystem that generates tens of thousands of jobs in the larger scheme of things. And that is something which helps our economic growth. So there you have it, a huge acceptance of necessity by the Defense Ministry worth 2.23 lakh crore rupees for a series of Indian weapon systems, which will be acquired by the time the last weapons which have been ordered or which will be ordered, hopefully, do enter service. Rest assured, it will be at least a decade or more. So that's what we have for you in this quick update of this landmark potential defense deal.